going back for the people. The most delightful, charming, welcoming, well, just the most friendly folks you'll find anywhere. In the Friendly Virgins. The first thing you'll notice about the Virgin Islands is there's so much diversity. At least a half a dozen distinct cultures blend together, really blend together in a multiracial, multi-language community. It's fascinating. So much of the islands reminds you of their long history. It's close to 500 years since Columbus's landing party came ashore into the mouth of the Salt River. Columbus called the island, the largest of today's three virgins, Santa Cruz, Holy Cross. When the French later took the island, they called it St. Croix. The Indians of St. Croix and of St. Thomas and St. John Islands to the north didn't long survive. Nothing's left of the Caribs and the Aralacs except for a few shards of pottery, some fishhooks, some carvings, relics of a fragile culture buried under the tide of Spanish power. But the Spanish built their real strongholds in the larger islands to the west, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Cuba. And it was the English who settled in the Virgins 20 years before Jamestown, Virginia. They were followed by the Dutch about 1625, and then the French. And for 100 years, the great European sea powers fought for control of the Caribbean. During all the fighting, the Danes slipped quietly into St. Thomas about 1666, and into neighboring St. John. And when the French king abandoned St. Croix, the Danes bought it and began nearly 300 years of Danish rule in the islands. Senator Fritz Louetz keeps up the long Danish agricultural traditions of his family, raising Sinopole cattle.
When the Danes came here in 1734, it was a jungle. There was about 106 people living on the island. And they needed someone to go ahead and work it. They invited anyone to come, as long as you had 500 with stellar. And of course, 1750 to 1800, sugar was gold. And a lot of these magnificent ruins you see comes from those days.
Today, you see the windmill towers of the Danes almost everywhere on the three islands. Wind power crushed the sugar, but it was African slaves who worked the plantations of the Virgin Islands. The great harbor of Charlotte-Amalie on St. Thomas was to become one of the key slave trading points in the Caribbean, receiving hundreds of Africans weekly. One leg of the triangle trade which bound Europe, Africa, and the New World together in an exchange of slaves, sugar and rum, and manufactured goods, all moving under sail in the prevailing trade winds. But the Danes were never comfortable with slavery, and they were the first to break away from it, abolishing the slave trade for Danes by 1803. In 1848, a strong liberal tide ran briefly through Europe, and one particularly liberal and humane Dane happened that year to be the Governor General of the Danish Virgin Islands. Peter von Schulten decreed freedom of all slaves in the Danish Virgin Islands on July 22, 1848. Almost 20 years before Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in the United States. Virgin Islanders remember Peter von Schulten, and indeed their whole Danish history, with warmth and affection. They'll point out to you throughout the island scores of sweeping steps outside churches and public buildings, what the islanders call welcoming arms, a particularly graceful and pleasant style of construction that symbolizes the Danish policy of open arms to all comers. English, French, Dutch, all were welcome to settle in the Danish Virgin Islands. And today, the many churches and synagogues throughout the islands tell us a great deal about the enlightened tolerance of Danish administration. For Catholics, Protestants, and Jews were encouraged to live and work together in notable harmony. But even the enlightened Danes couldn't help the islands when they discovered that Europeans could produce sugar beets cheaper than Virgin Islanders could produce sugar cane. Unemployment became severe, and the islands became a burden that Denmark could no longer carry. When the United States offered to buy the Virgins, the Danish people voted to sell. Down came the Danish flag in 1917, after 2.5 centuries, and up went the Stars and Stripes. But it wasn't to be an easy recovery for the Virgin Islands. The world depression that shattered our economy in the States hurt even worse in the Caribbean. Today, Virgin Islanders of middle age vividly remember those hard years.
When I was growing up, St. Croix was a typical rural community. Sugarcane growing all over the island. People like my grandparents with whom I grew up, for example, used horse and cart. At 30 cents a day or 40 cents a day or $10 a month as a cook, as my mother had to do, and my father, who worked as a stable hand. Even this, however, was good in comparison to the rest of the Caribbean area and even Puerto Rico. In the early 50s, people started to discover a quiet spot in the Caribbean, which was under the U.S. flag, where people were friendly, hospitable, and as a result, in the late 50s, early 60s, you had a booming, thriving, bustling Virgin Islands community.
A thriving community it is today, but at the same time, the Virgin Islanders remember their colorful past. They still dance the quadrille copied from their masters by plantation slaves over 100 years ago.
What was wrong? One's ready, right, let him say. Shoot, nay. Clap your hands. And then your feet. What was wrong?
The Virgin Islanders don't want their children to lose touch with their roots, nor to forget what life was like in the old, hard times.
Okay, boys and girls, when your grandmother was your age, they had to grow things like we have in this garden. We have sugar cane, sweet potato planted, we have pigeon peas, bananas, cassava, okra, and we have a couple of tomato trees. Now what we're going to do, we're going over there, and we're going to dig the ground and see if we can find some potatoes. Now, you think we should find some potatoes in the ground?
Yeah.
Look here.
This is a soursop. And what do you do with the soursop?
I know it.
You eat it. How do you eat it?
You can make special with it.
Right, that's one. Somebody else knows something about it?
You can make juice with it too.
Juice, You know, you make special, you make ice cream, you make sherbet, and you make a very good drink out of the soursop. Now here, look at this. What is this?
A
genie thing? Oh, my. All right, okay, a genie thing. But you know what this genie thing is made from?
Gold.
Gold? Another one say glass. All right. This genie thing is made from the clay of the earth, see?
Handcrafts, traditional ways of making things, are being taught in the schools, and more Virgin Islanders are turning to their traditional markets, where there's color and variety and showmanship.
For people who are just coming to the islands, when is the best time for them to shop in the market?
Well, you have market every day,
Yeah.
but on Saturday is the big market day.
What time you get up in the morning to come down here?
This morning, I just come down here at 4.
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock,
That
yes.
means you have to get up at 3 o'clock, huh?
Yes, get up 3, take my bath and cool off and then go.
Few market women are as delightful or as shrewd as Sandy of St. Thomas. Here's how she gets rid of an extra load of limes that grow wild all over the islands.
You want the lime, you have to buy the pepper.
But suppose I don't want the pepper.
Well, give it to your neighbor. Give it to your neighbor.
Okay.
But you know why?
Why?
I have more lime than what pepper. And the pepper goes very fast. And the lime is very slow, so I marry them.
Over on St. Croix, the oldest traditions of the Virgin Islands are returning. After 4 centuries, there are Spanish-speaking Virgin Islanders again, back from Puerto Rico and Culebra and Vieques, from Mexico and Central America.
We have kept our traditions of food, music, like the pachangas, the merengues, the guarachas, the boleros, and our language. Like at home, we speak Spanish, and I call it Spanglish, because when you can't remember something in Spanish, you say it in English. Can't remember something in English, you say it in Spanish, and everybody understands what you said.
British traditions, too, persist in the place names on St. Croix and in its families of English descent, like those of Joyce Hurd, who looks as English as a London housewife.
It was from about 1670. This estate has been on the old-time maps as we have seen it. And The name Spratt Hall came from the original name of Spratt Hole, and Hall means house in Danish. My family's been here about as long as anybody who's been in New England.
In the fascinating swirl of cultures and traditions in the Virgins, nothing is more colorful than the French vegetable farmers of the north side of St. Thomas, the descendants of Norman and Breton peasants and fishermen who arrived 3 generations ago. Men like fisherman Joe Laplace.
Most of the fishing in the north side is done by nets. But we all keep a couple of traps for whenever the rough weather's on, we cannot use a net, so we go at the traps. This piece of net I got here, if I really wanted to make it, I needed it, it will take me about 2 days to knit it. She's going to be 48 feet deep, and when I join her onto the piece I already have, she's going to be about 80 fathom, 6 feet to the fathom. While fishing alone, you either talk to yourself or you sing to yourself. I don't like talking to myself, because no one answers. So I made a calypso. There's the way to go. Make yourself a seaman. Make yourself a seaman. Make yourself a seaman with a pan and a calabash in your hand. Boil Dr. Fish and fry hard nose. Boil Dr. Fish and fry hard nose. Boil Dr. Fish and fry hard nose with pan and a calabash in your hand. I went trap this morning, it was rugged weather. Some of the squalls might have had about 35, 38 knots of wind. Some of the swells were 15 and the caps 20. My little boat was just going like a kite. When I got in Hulbe, I had spots all over my eyes.
When Joe Laplace was a boy, he left the Virgins during the Depression to find work in New York City.
When I leave St. Thomas, you could sell a fish weighing 4 pounds for a nickel, 8 cents, 10 cents. According to what a person had in their hand at the time. If they had a nickel, you take the nickel. If they had a dime, well, you get a dime. While in New York, I always dreamt of coming back. Came back in 1963. Did nothing else from then, fishing, to today. Make yourself a seaman. Make yourself a seaman. Make yourself a seaman with a pan and a calabash in your hand.
If there's one thing that binds all the Virgin Islanders together, it's their love of music. Some of it comes out of the old hard times when you made music out of whatever you could, well, scratch up. And that's why we now enjoy the music of the scratch bands. You also hear the young people of the Virgins playing the steel band music from Trinidad.
What you see behind me is our instructor, Mr. Maynard, teaching 2 young people how to tune a pan. Steel pan making is a beautiful skill. It is a thing that has been invented by a black man for all people.
To prepare the barrel, you have to sink the barrel head in. And after sinking in, you have to start marking it, indicate the lines or the difference of the notes. Then you take the punch and you make the punch marks. And then you beat back each note upwards. After that, you start the tuning. That is the most complicated part.
Music is a language. It doesn't say you are or you are not. It just says come and listen, come and enjoy.
quiet.
Push as hard as you can on that door.
I will, Ron.
Right, ready.
Let me have a bill, please.
All of us find something special in the Virgins, down on a few days vacation or here to work, like Michael York in the film crew of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
39, don't take one. Cut it.
I'm not just saying this because it's the appropriate thing to say, but I think it's one of the nicest Caribbean islands I've been on. I think the balance between the development and what is left, the real nature, is just perfect. I think charm is the keynote. I'm really impressed, and I'm, looking forward to seeing more.
The thing that you'll notice mostly, I think, down here in St. Croix is the friendliness of the people. For instance, it's the only place I've ever seen where you can be trying to get into a line of traffic and not have to wait 10 or 15 minutes, but somebody will stop for you and let you into the line. It's not a very big place, and you'll find people saying hello to you and good morning, and you don't even know who they are, but that's the kind of people they are.
Well, when you first see it, you think, it's still here. Nothing has happened to it, and it's going to be here. The most beautiful place in the whole wide world to come is Virgin Islands, because the temperature is a temperate climate year-round, no matter what.
I've sailed in Lake Champlain, New York, Chesapeake Bay. I've sailed a number of different places, but I've never found a place to sail where you can count so much on good weather and a steady wind. One of the other nice things about sailing in the Virgin Islands is that you're in the United States. You can buy the products that you know. Everybody speaks the language. It's nice to be able to enjoy this kind of exotic existence and still be in the United States.
I don't believe that you would find any American community that is active politically as we are in the Virgin Islands. Everybody is a politician. In fact, politics is spoken on the street corners by young ones, old ones, and by everyone. The voting primaries and also in general elections far surpass participation in many of the United States, and we're very proud of that.
Yes, Virgin Islanders are an active, vigorous community, full of life, full of joy, and increasingly they're learning the pleasures of creating with their hands from artists and craftsmen who have come to live in the Virgins.
This is the way I do what I call the undersea fantasies and a lot of the other backgrounds for the prints that I do.
Jeb Tillett's place in St. Thomas is home to a number of craftspeople who have come down from the mainland to work in the sun and among the flowers of the Virgins. Candlemaker, silversmith, tie-dyer, potter, and master silkscreen printer.
Fire.
While over in St. Croix, Fletcher Pence works with massive slabs of wood and teaches apprentice students the art of woodworking.
We make arrangements with private landowners to remove their dead trees, and we will come and remove the trunk. The trunks, if they're large enough, may be cut into big slabs for tabletops. You can kind of imagine what it will be in the finished product, but before you've opened the log, it's a deep, dark secret. Human eye is seeing what has never been seen before. The human being, defined by Thomas Aquinas as a being with brains and hands, enjoys nothing more than to be creatively, usefully, productively engaged with both his hands and his brains.
So there's good work for the hands and the mind in the Virgins, and skills to be admired. The skills of preparing and displaying magnificent feasts. Special skills, sometimes exotic skills, special to the Caribbean, like those of the mighty snake and peaches.
Came down just to spend the summer and never went back. Fell in love with the island and the people. I just loved it. I really do enjoy the activity down here. If you feel like being around people, you can go to a beach with people, or you can run away to a secluded area and be all by yourself. Most of your beaches around here, there is snorkeling right offshore, so you take your gear along and you can get in some snorkeling along with your swimming.
About 90% of the people in the United States have never caught anything over 4 or 5 pounds. And whenever they see a fish 20 or 30 or 40 pounds, it's quite a tremendous thing to them. And that is the one thing that I've really enjoyed in this type of fishing more than anything else. Some of our best anglers are women that don't weigh over 100 pounds soaking wet. But they learn to let the fish do the fighting, use their legs and brace against this kidney harness. This way they can wear a big fish down fairly easy. If they fished as much as men wouldn't even be in it, I'm afraid.
Johnny Harms, cameraman, yarn spinner, sports fisherman, hunter of the great blue marlin.
I came here in April 1963 and made a prediction that we would catch a world record within 5 years. And in '64, we did break the record by 3 pounds, 814. Probably the greatest catch in the world, still is, was 448 pounds on 12-pound test line.
Blues and greens, the vivid colors of the sea and the mountains of the Virgins. And year-round weather, not only to swim and sail, but also to get out on the greens and fairways for golf any day of the year. Or be able, winter or summer, to break out your rackets and play all the tennis your heart desires. But what's best about the Virgin Islands are the people themselves. You just don't want to miss them. Their great warm smiles, their friendship, their kindness, that joy of life you find on every side at St. Thomas and St. John and St. Croix. And you surely don't want to miss the music of the Virgins, for these are a people who love to sing and make music. From their scratch bands and steel bands to their jazz musicians and their choral singing in their churches. It's their music that we take back with us, along with our memories of wonderful sunlit beaches, sparkling water, and warm friends.